As you know, there are assumptions, and we are calling for thorough investigation and should be get into the bottom of this event and to have all true. So all those who were engaged should be accountable.
There are a lot of European and company diplomats in Iraq. Are you concerned about them? Are you going to ask them to leave the Iraq?
No, we're not just warning about precautions, about they should be careful, and that's the case. So I'm not going to issue any additional warnings.
And how would you comment on ongoing situation?
Ongoing situation where?
In Iran and
No, it's well, it looks like the situation calming down, but it's definitely not the end, and the situation must be de-escalated further. It's not just enough to de-escalate the situation, it's also important to project stability. And here, I believe European Union really has potential, economic potential, political potential to be engaged as a very active player. I hope we will be discussing this issue. I also believe direct engagement with the stakeholders in the region. Also, I believe transatlantic dialogue very important. Coordination with our partners, allies. Although there are some differences in the assessments, that means we have really to undergo this in-depth dialogue, discussion, and coordinate efforts, because if we will do that separately, definitely the efficiency of our efforts will be really doubtful.
Should the EU leave the JCPOA?
Well, we will discuss. As you can see, the euro, this is still existing. De facto, I doubt. And I believe this is also part of the overall discussion on the situation in the region, which should be segments of economic, political, security. This is economic. So some countries are still willing to preserve, but looks like Iranian statements also those statements are not very helpful with regard to the eventual nuclear program, and if they de facto will continue along these lines, definitely it will be very difficult to believe that this agreement could be alive.
And the plane incident, does that escalate or de-escalate the situation?
No, you can see yourself. Of course, it's not contributing to any de-escalation. This event, on whatever outcome would be, it's definitely a very big disaster. So, by all means, it should be investigated, and I believe international, impartial, transparent, and investigation is a must.
Do you think Iran should be more open to letting investigators?
They should show this full openness. There's no other option, actually. And more to say, as you know, there are many also Iranian citizens. So it's not just a problem for Ukraine or for other countries, but also Iranian so problem. And I believe this is in addition to all these developments in the region, must be considered quite carefully.
Also, U.S. investigators in Iran?
As I understood, they are invited. It was not yet confirmed, but I believe they are invited, and I hope it will be the case. But definitely it should be also prompt. It cannot last for long. It should be really because people would like to have true, not only relatives of the victims, but all international community. Thank you.
The Turkish movement towards Libya, it is against the United Nations. How is the European are going to deal now?
I hope we will be discussing situation in the Middle East in general, also when it goes to the situation in Iran, Iraq, but situation in Libya also will be discussed. So after that, we can provide more information if we have some common lines.
Are you willing in the European Union to receive here in this institution General Haftar to discuss the issue with him?
If we would, I hope we are going to be more active as European Union and players as de-escalators and the moderators. We have quite good potential for that, economic, political, and we have to be engaged. That means direct engagement. That means direct encounter with all stakeholders, including, as you mentioned. So we have to talk directly, not only with the political leaders in the region, but also, let me add, we have to coordinate as appropriate also our efforts, at least to coordinate and to compare notes with our transatlantic partners, which is not always happening, as you know. There are some differences, but we have to be engaged in the strategic discussion, I'm convinced.
Do you have enough tools in the European Union to convince Turkish to stop the military action in Libya?
We're talking for a long time about many other aspects, because it's not just Libya. There are other developments in Syria, also Turkish ambitions with regard to the European integration. De facto, it's still, and de jure, this is still continuous, although many doubt is it realistic. But I believe to be part of the process is very important. That also includes the in-depth discussion of these issues, open, candid, although having differences, including aspects you mentioned. So I hope we'll be engaged. We will respect needs and concerns of all countries, including Turkey, but also we have to get into the bottom of the issues, regardless the different difficulties, and including this possible engagement in Libya. I have no doubt it will be discussed also today.
We can expect a clear message today from EU to Iran.
Well, Iran, they promised not to escalate. Now, after this, so to say, missile attacks, which were condemned by all of us, they said this is the end of this, so to say, response, and we encourage them really to act along these lines and to stop further escalations. That's very important for now. Although I have to say this is not yet end of the developments, and we have to continue, not only to continue with the de-escalation, but also to find efforts for projecting stability, which is not less important. And here EU can play a role.
Thank you.
Sir, just very quickly, President Trump said NATO perhaps should include the Middle East and change the name to NATO. What do you make of that?
It was clarified that he would like to be NATO more active in the region, which is definitely the case. As you know, there were two North Atlantic Council meetings, and Monday extraordinary meeting, and also a few days ago there was another meeting, and it was confirmed quite strongly. On one hand, solidarity with the United States; on the other hand, a need to be engaged in the region, in Iraq, in the operations which are now having some difficulties logistically, practically. Some of them are suspended, like NATO training mission, but everybody agreed it's important to continue. So, as I understood, President Trump encouraged NATO allies from Europe to be really active in the region. I believe we have also to discuss in the European Union our engagement with the Iraqi government, our engagement with the stakeholders in the region, also our presence in a positive way, facilitating the stability, and that's exactly the case. So my reading of this statement is exactly that.
Is it a good idea to include the Middle East in NATO, perhaps changing even the name?
Middle East will not be included like countries as you would like to see, and I believe it was clarified. It's not about expansion in the region. It was just said that NATO should be more active, and I believe this is important.
Thank you.